Welcome back to Leadership from the Kitchen. My name is Wendy Ellis Green with P31 Consulting and P31 Academy. And I'm adding another skill for our internal transformation series that I realized that after the last segment, it was missing. This is a great skill. It's one of those skills that separates the good team members from the great team members. And that's the art of strategic questioning through continuous tasting. You know, when you mix up a dish, if you're like me, I'm constantly tasting the dish and asking questions. I don't just do this at the end. I don't wait until the end, but I do it throughout the entire process. Does this need more salt? Or is the acid balance right? Or does it need some type of flavor like a vanilla or an almond? And how's the texture developing? In fact, just yesterday, I asked my brother to taste the macaroni salad that I was making to help me determine what it needed. It needed something. And each taste that we took told us what the dish needed. This is exactly how your team members should approach their work, through this continuous strategic questioning and tasting. And they should not be heading into things blindly and just doing the work. You know those cooks that season once and then hope for the best. I prefer not to eat their cooking, but I am gracious about it. But seasoned cooks and chefs know that great results come from asking the right questions at the right moments and making the adjustments based on what they learn. Our teams can and should be doing this. Let me show you what that looks like. If I had just dumped salt into my macaroni salad without tasting it, I was cooking blindly. But when I tasted it first and then asked, okay, what does this need? That's when I began my strategic approach. And part of my strategy was to bring in someone else to validate what I was seeing and thinking, and in this case, taste it. The dish told me and my brother exactly what it needed, but only because I asked the question of it through tasting and through his tasting. Your team members need to develop the same discipline with their work. They should ask questions about trying to get a better understanding. Like before they start a task, they should taste the situation by asking, how will the decision maker use the insights that I'm developing during this project or process? And what would make the deliverable really valuable for them? And then they should also be taking tastes of context as well. They should pause, perhaps even halfway through a project, and say, okay, now are my findings aligned with what my client actually needs to make a decision or actually needs to gain some understanding? What have I learned that might change my approach? And what assumptions should I be validating before I even go any further? But even at the end of a project, they should taste before they deliver. They should taste the outcomes. Okay, now does this analysis lead to a clear recommendation for my client? What objectives might my stakeholders raise? And how can I make this more actionable for my client? So yesterday I made 3 different dishes. I made the macaroni salad I was telling you about earlier. I made a cucumber and feta salad, and I made greens. Each of these dishes required different questioning approaches. One of them was completely raw, essentially. One of them was some cooked ingredients, some raw ingredients, and one of them was completely cooked. So the cucumber salad had flavors in it like mint and parsley, and there were tomatoes in addition to the cucumbers and the feta. So I was tasting it for salt, and I was tasting it for other textures that it might need to balance out some of the crunchiness that was in there. Now the greens, they have a really strong flavor. So I was tasting that for something more bold like garlic and onion, something bigger. We find the same business situations require different questioning styles like those dishes did. For instance, think about that new client relationship or a client that has like a sensitive topic or needs to make a critical decision. They need some gentle questioning to get them to where they need to be. But those other clients that where you've got really strong relationships with them, maybe you're in a brainstorming session or a problem-solving meeting, they need something more direct. They need probing questions that really get them to think differently. But here's one of those things about questioning. Questioning isn't about doubt or criticism. It's about optimization. When we taste and ask, what does this need? I'm not criticizing the dish. I'm trying to make it extraordinary. And your team members should approach questioning the same way, whether to question themselves or others. It's about optimization, not criticism. Now, here are a few strategic questions they could practice, perhaps in an upcoming project. When they're looking at their own work, they could question things like, what assumptions am I making? What information is missing from what I have or what I've been given? And how could this be more valuable? And then taking a step out a bit and looking at team projects, they can start asking what's working well that we should build on and what's not working well that we could adjust what we're doing and what opportunities might we be missing. And then taking an even larger step back and looking at department initiatives. How does the work that I'm doing or that we're doing impact the bigger goals of the organization? And what resources can we ask for organization that we really need? And who else should be involved? My tasting became more confident over time. Your juniors, that will happen as well. But early, I would just make small adjustments, whether it was in my cooking or my projects. As I understood the dish more and my projects and my clients more, I can make bolder moves because I trusted my palate and my questioning process and approach. But here's something that we all have experienced, those that are more seasoned. Sometimes you taste and you know it needs something, but you're not sure what it needs. The dish just is not quite right. But you can't immediately put your finger on it. You can't tell what's missing. I know. I can feel you guys saying, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But here's where strategic questioning becomes most valuable. Instead of guessing or doing nothing, experienced cooks take a step back, pull in their experience, that systematic set of questions, and apply it to the situation. Is this missing acid? Does it need salt? Could I add in some sweetness? Does it need something that make it brighter like lemon? Maybe the texture needs to be adjusted, or there needs to be a contrast in there with the texture. Your team members are going to face these same exact situations with their work. They're going to sense that something is not quite right in the project or their approach, but they won't immediately know what's missing. This is when they need to become strategic detectives. And ask probing questions. What would make this more valuable for the client? And what perspective are we missing? Who else should be weighing in here? And what would our best competitor do differently? Those are all really great, insightful questions. So the key isn't to ignore that nagging feeling that something needs attention. No, we want them to trust their instincts as they grow and get more confident. But we also want them to use that systematic questioning that they've been practicing to identify what's actually needed. Your team members are going to develop this confidence. Early on, they're going to question things, and their questioning journey is going to be a little bit tentative. They might make small recommendations here, ask tentative questions there. But as they develop this strategic palette, they'll ask more insightful questions and make stronger recommendations because their confidence would have grown. You might be thinking, okay, what are the signs? How did I know my team members are getting to the place where they're developing these questioning skills? A new team member might pause and taste a situation before jumping in and actually starting the work. They might begin making notes, asking themselves questions. They also might ask clarifying questions that uncover information that perhaps they weren't given. They also might make mid-course corrections during a project based on what they've learned. And when they get really comfortable with questions, they might begin to question their own assumptions and yours. So, your leadership challenge for this week is to lead the way and demonstrate to your team what taking a strategic tasting break looks like during the workflow. Show them what it looks like in the beginning, show what it looks like in the middle, show what it looks like in the end, show what it looks like during strategic moments, and encourage them to pause and ask, what do we know now that we didn't know before? What does this work need to be truly excellent? Help them understand that questioning isn't about slowing down the process. It's about arriving at a better destination for you and the client. So until next time, keep cooking up great leadership by teaching your team to taste before, during, and after they season. Have a great week.